He is an activist, an entrepreneur, and he's written a book called Untold. The one and only Mr. Leon Ford. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. I'm gonna tell you, this man's smile will light up an entire room. It's amazing. All right. Before we get to your backstory, tell me your front story. Tell me what you're doing in the world to make a difference and put money and goodness in people's pockets.
Yes, I am what one of my mentors called me, a consensus builder. And so I guess, going through, my backstory, right? And getting some therapy has helped me to be more objective in my leadership. And so I help train police officers. I am like a untraditional consultant for some foundations, for some politicians, for activists, and business owners. I also invest in like startup companies, and I do what I can to solve problems in community.
And before we get to your backstory, because it's interesting, and I'm teasing this for people, to invest in startups requires money, Leon. Yeah. What is the source of said money that allows you to be able to do that?
Yes, so the source came from, tragedy, right? I had sued the city of Pittsburgh and ended up settling out of court. I'm so fortunate for, some amazing mentors and friends that I had access to that kind of helped me make good financial decisions after that, because I know people and we know people who had, come into some type of wealth, be it from, NFL, NBA settlements. And, unfortunately, they don't always keep it, right? They don't do the right thing. And so
I got a billion and one questions about your investments, but all right, let's tell the backstory. I'm teasing folk. So tell us how you arrived at this place. And I wish that no one ever gets a settlement from suing the police, because I wish that no one ever has to go through what you went through. So tell us what happened.
Absolutely. So on November 11th, 2012, I was pulled over by some Pittsburgh police. During that traffic stop, I provided my driver's license, my registration, my car insurance. And they actually ran my name. And so when they ran my name, everything came back clear.
Okay, so wait, pause. So Leon, you're in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
What kind of car are you driving?
I'm driving a 2006 Infiniti G35.
Okay. It's dark. What time of day is it?
It's dark. It's, it's evening, maybe like 9 p.m.
And where you were going home? You were going home?
I was driving to my grandmother's house.
Okay. You see the lights, whoop, whoop. And you're thinking what?
I saw the officers before I saw the lights. And when I saw their police car, I knew I was going to get pulled over. And
why?
So, it's like one of them things where you look at a police car, you kind of make eye contact, you just know, like, okay, they're going to pull me over. Even though I didn't do anything, illegal, it's just kind of like, I don't know if it's a black thing. I don't know if it's a black Pittsburgh thing, but when you make that eye contact with them, you just know it's like a feeling that comes over you, and you just kind of, prepare for that traffic stop.
All right. So did they U-turn and get you? So they passed you, and then they U-turn, and you're like, okay, here we go. Because you've been stopped before, right?
Absolutely. Several times.
So what happened when they came to the car?
So they ran my name. Everything came back clean. Then they typed L Ford in their system. So if you can imagine, Linda, Larry, all types of names came up. And they decided on Lamont Ford. And so one of the officers actually had some type of encounter with Lamont Ford, and they made me out to be him. So they accused me.
But your license said Leon Ford.
Yes.
Your registration license said Leon Ford.
Everything.
Why would they say you were Lamont? and your information says Leon and it matches your face in the picture?
They just thought I was lying about my identity. And, they insisted that I was Lamont Ford. The traffic stop lasted, almost, 20 minutes. And, after them accusing me of being Lamont Ford, they used some racial slurs. They threatened me. Eventually one of the officers reached inside of my window, unlocked the door, and they tried to pull me out of the car. When they tried to pull me out of the car, I actually pulled off, and one of the officers on the passenger side jumped inside of the vehicle and shot me 5 times.
The adrenaline, did you know immediately that you were shot?
No, I didn't. I actually thought that I was tased. It was so when I pulled off, the officer shot me. He's in a vehicle. I had crashed into a porch. Almost immediately, one of the officers ran down and, pulled me out of the car, slammed me on the ground, and handcuffed me.
With bullets in you, you're bleeding.
Yes.
And you had a car accident.
Yes.
Did they never called an ambulance? Did they try to?
So an ambulance eventually came. But while I was on the ground, I was like, y'all shot me because I could feel the blood coming out of me. I can feel the blood coming out of my mouth. It was hard to breathe. And it was interesting. One of the officers actually kneeled down next to my head, and he was like, we hope you, effing die. And he said it over and over again. And I could just remember, taking deep breaths and just saying like, yo, I don't want to die, and I thought about my parents because I had a little sister that was hit by a truck and she was killed when she was 10 years old. I was 13. And so I just knew my parents they wouldn't, be able to, manage life, losing a second child.
We're talking with Leon Ford, author of Untold, and he's telling it. Survived this encounter, shot 5 times. Where did the bullets enter?
Yeah, so one of the bullets went through my neck. 2 of them went through my chest. 1 went through my arm, and 1 went through my hip.
And they pulled you out, slammed you on the ground. Ambulance comes. You get to the hospital, I guess. You're handcuffed probably to a gurney.
Yeah.
Because you're a complete threat. What did the doctors tell you?
So I woke up. I had no concept of time. I assumed it was a few days later. And doctor came into my room and he said, we have good news and we have bad news. The good news is you're going to survive. The bad news is you will never walk again. And almost immediately, I don't know if it was later that day or the next day, I was being arraigned from my hospital bed in the ICU because I was charged with several felony offenses from that traffic stop.
So fast forward. At what point did justice, I'm put up air quotes because there's nothing that you can't get that day back. They can't rewind. They can't undo the bullets. They can't undo the trauma that you are probably still, I don't know if you still relive that moment. I can't imagine being shot 5 times by police, thinking I'm going to die, worrying about my parents and all of the things. You think about worrying about your parents while you literally are clinging to life, but you're worrying about how it's going to impact them in that moment. When did they realize that you're not Lamont and that this stop was not right and you should never have been shot? And the people that say, why didn't you just comply, Leon? Why didn't you just get out the car? Why didn't you just comply? Because I'm hearing the ignorance right now. Right. What do you say to that too?
Yeah, unfortunately, when you're in those situations, getting out of the car could have left me in the worst situation. It's hard to assume. But when it's dark when, these officers are threatening you. The car feels like safety. It's kind of like, it's kind of like when you're a kid, right? And you're scared of a movie and you hide under the covers. If something wanted to get you, it's going to get you whether you're under the covers or not, right? And so that's what the car was for me. The car was like a safety net, and whether I got out the car or stayed in the car, I just felt safe in the car, even though staying in the car, still, I end up, being paralyzed.
What were you doing? How old were you? You were 19 years old. 19 years old. What did you hope to do? You're in school? You're going to school to be what? What was the dream of Leon Ford at 19?
Leon Ford at 19 was just trying to figure it out. I had went to school to get my CDLs because my older brother drove trucks. I was also working at an auto body shop. My uncle owned it, and so I was painting cars and doing body work, that type of stuff. I was also doing a little film and video production. I was also boxing. I was just trying to figure out, what I wanted my life to look like after high school.
866-801-8255. I had promised myself I was gonna ease away from trauma for this month, but this story, unfortunately, and I was talking to somebody today who's not from the culture. It was like, I had no idea. I can never imagine what Black people feel when police pull behind them. And for most folk in this country who have no experience with that, it seems unreasonable that we would have this fear. Seems unreasonable. But we saw recently a lieutenant in the Army, or forgot what branch of the military, who kept driving to get to a lit area because he knew pulling over in the dark is dicey, even with his uniform on. And then we saw the interaction, which I'm sure the police must have known he was filming, and there's cameras in the gas station, and they still showed out. So imagine if he were pulled over. And again, you say it's safer in the car, even if that's irrational, because I don't know what they're going to do, and I'm not getting out. This changed your life forever, but I brought you on today because Cena introduced us, and I thank him for that. But also because even in the most horrific situations, you can turn things around and make a difference, which is why I wanted to start with the good, because it's not a happy ending because you're not walking. And, you seem like a person that might have been very active as well.
Absolutely.
The things that you've missed, that you look back on, not that you lament on them, because clearly you are moving forward, but things that you would have today if you could walk.
Yeah, I think about that, even from a psychological standpoint. I have an 8-year-old son, and for the first like 3 years of his life, I was always there. But I wasn't mentally present because I was dealing with so much trauma. And, I've been going to therapy for over 2 years now. And the way that I'm, present in life is different than how it was, prior to that. And so, I just want to bring that to the space that, sometimes it's not always about what I could physically do, but how much that trauma and the stress impacted, my quality of life. The other thing is like, simple things, walking up and down my grandma's steps, right? Going to visit whenever I want to without having to call, a cousin or someone to come carry me, I miss boxing. I miss, I still wrestle with my dad and stuff, but it's just different. Like life is different. I am a very resilient person. I'm a problem solver. So I don't dwell, on what I can't do. I just figure out ways to do it. But that is shifting for me as well, because I recognize that there are people in wheelchairs that aren't, as independent as I am. And so, you know, now I'm getting to the stage of my process where, you know, even when I could solve a problem and say, oh, this is how I'm going to do this, I'm still considering like, wow, there's somebody who is in a wheelchair that may not be able to do this. So let me speak to this issue, right? Be it around, you know, some infrastructure within the city, or if it's like some ADA requirements that, you know, a business isn't, you know, really, you know, up to date on. So I'm like in a season of my life where I'm like, all right, cool, I can do this, but let me be an advocate for other people who may not be this independent.
Leon Ford is here. Leon Ford Speaks is where you can follow him on Twitter. Breakout.today /Leon is where you can reach him online. The book is Untold.